Latiya City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
We have a very unique and wonderful morning planned. Matt Kelly's going to favour us with his story and his music, and I'm just having breakfast with Barry Upton, and Barry Upton said this guy's harmonica playing is like world class. It's really amazing. His blues harmonica, and he plays the guitar, and of course, as you might have noticed from his history goes back to the Grateful Dead. Right? Yeah, round of applause, right? Grateful Dead. And he's not only a record producer now, he's a record owner in terms of this club. He's going to be the oldest words and music person we've ever had in the history of the club. And but I'm not going to tell you his age until afterwards. And but Poppy helped arrange it. Poppy's been really great for the club. Come up and give a little bit more of an introduction, Poppy.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, a news article popped up in my feed on my computer from the Rolling Stone announcing the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead. And last month, because some of them are continuous, they're now called Dead and Company, right? But they're playing at the Sphere in Las Vegas still, and Matt was there last year hanging out with them. But when I saw the IMAX theaters in the West were having a special streaming concert from the Golden Gate Park in honor of the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead. Now, Matt was not an official member, but over the course of 20 years, he played over 30 major concerts with them. But Matt had his own group called Kingfish, but Matt played with many other groups that you might have read in the newsletter, including the Electric Light Orchestra. Well, he had his own, I mentioned Kingfish, Electric Light Orchestra, Doobie Brothers, U2, Bonnie Raitt, B.B. King, Eric Clapton. So all the music we grew up with, So I contacted Ren and Amy and said, I know a guy here. It's the 60th anniversary. Why don't we invite him? And Ren was very open. Also interesting timing. Recently, a movie came out in the past few months called Sinners. Anybody see the movie Sinners? Okay, yeah. So it was based on the life of Robert Johnson, who in the 30s, Mississippi, became one of the greatest blues musicians. But famously, he has a Crossroads song where he had to make a choice at the crossroads, a pivotal point in his life between Jesus Christ or Lucifer. He ended up making a deal with Lucifer, and witnesses say overnight he became a master guitar player, singer, lyricist, but Lucifer demanded payment when he was only 27 years old, and he kind of began the famous 27 Club, the music giants after that died at 27, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, and the list goes on and on. So we're honored to have Matt here because he's one of the few survivors who played with these music giants, and I believe he's been under divine protection, actually. So let's have a round for Matt Kelly.
Come on, Matt. Thanks.
Can you hear me out there? I've got a very soft voice, so, okay, great. So I want to thank Poppy for his introduction, but I want to, just for the record, I did not play with people like you two, and I did play with some of the people you mentioned, but mainly I was on the bill with these people. And I've been in and out of the music business for probably close to 50 years. Been on the road and toured, and it's interesting because I'm actually one of the last amongst my my friends and fellow musicians, I'm one of the last survivors, which is somewhat disconcerting, and I miss them, but it was a real privilege to play with all these guys. But anyway, well, there are some great musicians that I'm playing with over here, but I love playing with both Thais and Farangs. So what I want to talk about today is where I grew up in. The area that was most famous for music and such was the San Francisco Bay Area. And I grew up there. I'm not a city person, but the Haight-Ashbury was probably the most well-known. They called all the flower children and such with long hair. If you see pictures, it was me. I had very long hair. However, I did not reside in San Francisco. I was more of a country person. And so I don't know how many of you have heard of Ken Kesey. He's the gentleman that wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. What happened with him happened to me as well. He got invited by Stanford Research Institute to be a guinea pig, and they paid him $75 to take a substance called LSD, which he did do, and it changed his life. And they also contacted me, and I was a guinea pig and got paid $70 for trying pot, which is now legal, which I find really interesting because I wrote a song about that from my personal experience, because at the time it was a 5-year mandatory jail sentence for having, a certain amount of the substance, and I was very naive. I was just a kid. In any case, what I'm going to talk about is that era and what was of interest. And I don't know how many of you are really familiar with that. And I want to talk about the pros and the cons of the main substance was psychedelic drugs, or substances, I should say, quite different from the, alcohol and cocaine and stuff like that. It was considered a sacrament by people like the American Indians and so on. And it had a drastic effect in changing society in many ways. I'm just reporting what it was like. I'm not taking a stand one way or the other. But at the time, first time I had anything to do with this, it was legal. And people like Gary Grant, the actor, took these substances and raved about it. And even my father, who was a very conservative businessman, he told me, I'll never forget it, said it's the greatest invention since the wheel. And I don't know about that, but that's what he said. Anyway, so I'm going to just talk about some of the positive and the negative aspects of these substances, because it had such a phenomenal effect on society as a whole. And I grew up during the era of the Vietnam War, and they were sending all these young kids to Vietnam, which was really horrific. And a lot of my friends were wounded or killed over there, and they wanted to draft me. And the only reason I got out was because I panicked. I was being chased by a cop, and I started running. Anyway, he shot at me 3 times. And fortunately, he was a bad shot. But anyway, that got me out of the draft. But but primarily, what I would like to talk about is, first of all, the positive aspects of these substances, and because it really had a phenomenal effect on everything from medicine to education, and certainly creativity. Whether it's music or art or whatever. Even Steve Jobs created his phenomenal Apple he did it in his garage under the influence, and so it's really pretty fascinating about all these things. And so let's see, where am I going to go with this? Okay, I would all ask if you guys wouldn't mind playing the. This is something I did in with my friend Bobby Weir from the Grateful Dead. It was in what was the name of that place? Hollywood Bowl in LA, which is a phenomenal place to play. And Bonnie Raitt was on the bill, and lots of other people. And they had one backup band that backed us all up, and it was a magic day. So.
Dogs begin to bark now, and the hounds begin to howl. Dogs begin to bark now, and the hounds begin to howl. Watch out, stray cat people. You know the little red rooster's on the prowl. Matthew Kelly now. See my little red rooster, please drive him home.
Thank you very much. I have to say that was an interesting day because I just had flown in with my girlfriend from Hawaii, and so I was suffering from jet lag. And my girlfriend, because it was really a bumpy road, and she gave me something on the plane to relax me, and I don't know what it was, but to be honest, that was not my favorite performance, but the band was great, the backup band. And anyway, glad you all enjoyed it. And so Bob Weir, the fellow, we grew up together, and I've been in 4 different bands with him. They've been really interesting. We're in a jazz band with people like Billy Cobham and all these well-known people, and I still play with them every now and again. So let's see. They advertised me was about the Grateful Dead, so I'm going to talk briefly about my experiences with the Grateful Dead. And if you don't want to hear about that, just let me know and I'll go somewhere else. Because to be honest, the thing that really excited me about music was I had the privilege to be able to play with many of my idols. A lot of the blues greats like John Lee Hooker, T-Bone Walker, B.B. King, and those kind of guys, and that's what really did it for me. More than the Grateful Dead. I know the Grateful Dead had a big name and everything, but for me, it was so exciting because ever since I was a kid, I was really moved by the sincerity and of these old blues guys, and so it was a real privilege. And in fact, the song that Bobby was doing, it was written by Willie Dixon, the most famous blues songwriter of all time. And a lot of people don't know of him because he was behind the scenes writing these songs. But anyway, so before I move away from the Grateful Dead, and I also played with the Jerry Garcia band. He had his own band, and that was really fun because he had some great players, and it was... I think I need to talk about. Do you guys have the song? With this is a song that I wrote with the keyboard player at the time, Brent Midland, and he was really struggling. And the lyrics to the song are pretty dark, but. And shortly after this song, he died of an overdose. It was really sad because we were very close. And the keyboard player was a fellow named Nicky Hopkins, who was one of my all-time favorites. And he played with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and he was phenomenal. But anyway, this is a song that I wrote with Brent. It's called Shining Dawn, and it's, yeah, you'll hear it. That song has a lot of significance for me, because I was very close with Brent, and the lyrics, it's hard to understand, but they're, you know, it talks about, it's really about cocaine and about depression, and this night is forever, I got to keep hanging on. My reflection in the mirror, and they're talking about when you do cocaine, and all the time it's on a mirror, cutting up and sees the shining dawn. So the sun's coming up, and it really, fortunately, I never got into that all that much, and so I'm still alive. But a lot of my close buddies, including Brent, didn't make it, and so it's very sad. I've been working on this project, a musical sort of documentary for the last, if you can believe it, the last 50 years, and it's got all these guys on it, and like Jerry Garcia, Brent, and a bunch of others, and they're no longer with us. So I want to get this thing finished, and each song has a story to go along with it. So it's not just music; it's a documentary of the things that happened during this era. And no matter what anybody may think of, you know, negative or positive about that era, you can't deny that there was a lot of creativity and positive stuff that was happening musically. And so anyway, that song had a lot of meaning for me. For me, music is it's really near and dear to my heart because it's a great way of expressing you know, what you're feeling, and you know, there's so many songs that are just, you know, it's great. Love songs are wonderful, but it's nice to talk about real issues, I think. So anyway, that's that. And I think what I'm going to do now, before I proceed any further, I'm going to ask if anybody has any particular questions about anything having to do with this period in history, because there's no denying that it had a remarkable effect on society. And I'll just say one thing in particular. For instance, during the Vietnam War, at Kent State University, President Nixon ordered his troops to shoot and kill, I think it was 5 students got killed. 4, thank you. It was just horrific, and nobody understood what was going on. Well, we did understand. But anyway, so if you have any questions about anything, I'd really welcome anything from any of you.
Firstly, I'd like to say that last song you played, that really blues. That I closed my eyes and you could feel the heartbreak in that song.
Thank you.
It was quintessential blues.
That was done.
We all I mean, there was a real sense in that we're all children of the 60s, right? Because it was such a game-changing era. Bill.
Thank you for doing this. One thing I was always curious about the Dead was they were so popular on tour, and they had such a loyal following. I had a lot of friends who would follow the Dead around, but they never seemed to like make it on commercially. Was there any particular reason you think that happened?
Yes. Well, first of all, the one hit that they had was called "Touch of Grey," and before that, they just weren't doing it in the studio because it's like Garcia used to say, well, you know, we're not that kind of band. And every performance they would do, they prided themselves on it being different. They would never play the song the same way twice, or they would endeavor to do that. But yeah, that's a good point. They never were commercially that successful. And when they were, it was one of the worst things that happened to the band, to be honest.
It's a pleasure, Matt. I was wondering, I read in the newsletter that you had been associated with Jeff Lynne.
Yes.
With Yellow.
Yes.
Do you have any anecdotes about him? I mean, this guy is such a talent.
I'm glad you mentioned Jeff Lynne because he's one of my all-time favorite musicians. He's such a gentleman, and he's so talented. That band he put together with George Harrison, I just listen to that every day. It's so joyful, and the music is so. I just love it. So yeah, Jeff Lynne is one of the most talented people I know. When I was on tour with them, we opened for them, but we weren't able to interact with them that much.
Well, if anybody was supposed to be knighted, I think Jeff Lynne should be knighted.
I totally agree.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I think that's all the questions we have at the moment.
Really? I'm surprised.
Wait. No, we've got another one. Latecomer.
It's common in the music industry for people like you have been outlining to be one band, change over to another band, change, cross-match to someone else. How does that go with the musicians where someone's leaving the band and going to join someone else, or the thing falls apart or whatever?
Well, that's a good question because it's kind of like a marriage. You know, you get very tight with your fellow bandmates, and so it can be, it's like a breakup. And when somebody leaves, it can be quite dramatic and it can be painful, especially if it's somebody that the band really needs for their sound. In my case, my band Kingfish, our lead guitar player was phenomenal. He was a genius, and he didn't leave on his own accord, but his drug habit was so bad that it just didn't work anymore. So we had to move on.
Hey Matthew, it's Bobby back here. Can you talk a little bit about the Chitlin Circuit and what that was? And
I'm glad you asked that. You know, most people don't know that much about that part of my life, but for me, that was by far and away the most interesting, and I learned so much. I don't know how many of you even know what the Chitlin Circuit is, so I'll briefly describe. The chitlin is a food that blacks, African American people eat, and they're usually very poor. And I went on the road. I was the only white person, and we played. I was from California, and I was very naive about this, but we played in the Deep South, and where they have. This was in the late '60s, and they have Ku Klux Klan, and I was beaten up. I was almost killed. I was harassed by the police in New Orleans. I mean, it just goes on. And I didn't think this kind of stuff really happened because I never saw this in California. But boy, it was a rude awakening when somebody comes up and sticks a .357 in your mouth, and and I had all kinds of stuff. And finally, we had to go our separate ways. But back to the question about it, the positive side of it was I was treated so well. I was family. They basically adopted me, and it was really beautiful. And these are people that I've been listening to since I was a kid, and some people I'd never known before. But it was by far and away one of the highlights of my life, and certainly my music career.
Matt, there's Poppy here, wants to talk to you. Oh, he covered it, did he? Okay, I'll come round here.
I think of one commercial success in the movie industry was the Blues Brothers. That I can't stop watching that over and over and over. Tell me your impressions.
Well, when they did the closing of Winterland with the Grateful Dead, the Blues Brothers were on that bill, and I was playing with the Grateful Dead that night. So it was really fun to be up close with those guys, and you know, they're very entertaining. They're funny, and amazingly enough, they're not musicians, but they did pretty well. John Belushi, when he was in the band, I mean, he's like unstoppable. I don't know, but you're from Chicago, so you know about that kind of thing. But anyway, that was an interesting event.
Matt, I noticed that you mentioned earlier about some of the lyrics were dark, and back in the '60s, although it was thought to have been the great time of our lives, certainly in mine, but musically, the radio stations was the only way that we ever heard music, and they were controlled, certainly in the US, more than in the UK and in Europe. But that was what held some of the bands back, because of the lyrics.
Yes, very true. Well, in Europe, didn't they have that boat off the coast? That,
yes, we did. Yes, yeah. I can't remember the name of it now, but yes, there were two boats.
Matt, thanks. It's such an interesting talk, but it sounded like you were just about to tell us about LSD and your experience with that and how it maybe affected you or the people around you. Would you be able to say a bit more about that for us?
Sure, I'd be delighted. You know, it's a very subjective kind of thing. For me, it was quite different than a lot of my contemporaries, because a lot of people would take LSD and go to concerts, and that's something I wouldn't do. I just wouldn't do, because you're so sensitive, and there's all these people, and some people are on heroin and methadone or who knows what, and so that wasn't something I like to do, although a lot of Grateful Dead fans would do that. When I would take psychedelics, I would like to go out in nature, in a quiet place, and it's more like I do meditation and stuff like that. So that's what I was drawn to, that kind of stuff with those substances. And I don't know how much you know about the American Indians. You know, they take peyote, and it's legal for them. So, good question. I could go on about that, but I don't want to get too carried away. Can I ask you a question? Have you had? What's your experience been with those substances?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. I think they're really mind-opening, and at least it's like a reset, isn't it? Like if you switch off a computer and reset. But yeah, they're very mind-expanding and help us to get out of our narrow rut of the way we think things are, for sure. And they make us super sensitive to things like nature. I agree, like you say, and I think that there's something to be revered and respected and feel humble next to, because nature can be just so incredible, and music particularly, like
yes.
Yeah, like Santana or something, just incredible with plant medicine and psychedelic.
That's a great observation. And having said that, where was I going to go with this? I don't want to. So you said something that I wanted to respond to. It's gone now. It'll come back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You took me back to memories of my 60s and 70s when I was clubbing it, enjoying myself, generally going berserk, but not too berserk because I was in the Royal Navy, so you have to be careful. But it was a real pleasure to hear that music because it's what I class as genuine music. A lot of the stuff today is synthetic.
Yeah.
And materialised on computers. Half these guys can't bloody sing. But you and your band were fantastic. The only question I want to ask you, if you think back to those days, happy days, yeah, great. What would you change then for now?
That's a really interesting question. You know, when we played music, we weren't involved. We didn't care about the economics, and we were very naive. We were playing, at least in my particular group, it was purely for the joy of playing music. And as a result, many bands, mine being one of them, and Creedence Clearwater, and many others who had hit records and everything, didn't make any money because it was all stolen by crooked managers, and there have been a lot of movies about this kind of stuff. And it was also true, because that's not why we played music. It had nothing to do with, and you know, it's interesting because I hear all the time from people, they say, boy, I'd sure like to be a rock star. And it's never been an aspiration of mine. It just kind of fell in my lap, and to be honest, I was kind of uncomfortable with that. It's much better nowadays because I can just play with people I enjoy playing with, and I'm not in the framework of the so-called music business like I used to be, which could be quite upsetting at times.
I got a question. You mentioned Ken Kesey a while ago. Yeah. Have you ever met Ken Kesey?
I certainly have.
I stayed at his ranch outside of Springfield, Oregon.
Nice.
And so did you travel with the Miracle Pranksters?
I didn't travel with him, but I knew Ken because I lived up in La Honda, where he had a lot of his goings on up there. You know, this thing he called the acid test, and the pranksters, and then there was
there.
Who was the gentleman that drove the bus? It was so well known. Help me out, Bobby. Anyway, thank you, Neil Cassidy.
Yeah.
Who they made movies about, and he was like a really flamboyant man, and he was close with Kesey. And I know Kesey, he was a Stanford graduate. He's a very bright guy.
He was a great guy.
A great guy, very entertaining, lots of fun, and he also played harmonica.
Yeah, I stayed at his ranch for a couple of months. Me and a friend of mine were hitchhiking across it. Anyhow, and my next thing is, you mentioned the Grateful Dead. My friend, where Jerry Garcia died from his heart attack in the driveway, rents his house, has had his house for over 10 years or 15 years maybe, and he's a pianist, Eric. I won't mention his last name, but you bring back a lot of memories.
Oh, wait, so let me get this straight. You're talking about a piano player that played with Jerry, or?
No, he didn't play with, no, but he's a very good pianist, and he's...
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And he still lives in Garcia's house.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Which he rents, he doesn't own, but it's out in the country, You've been there probably.
Okay, I probably have.
It sounds like you've touched quite a few people and chords and memories and stuff. And Barry Upton, who knows more than most of us will ever know about music, he says, when it comes to playing, harmonica and stuff, you are as good as it gets. So I think maybe now is the time to do it live, yeah?
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Barry, for your vote of confidence. Barry's also a very talented musician in his own right. Let's see, what am I going to do? My friend Bobby Pars is going to help me out on this. I'm not sure what we're going to do, but come on up. This is hello, testing, test. Bop. This is a song. Can you hear me out there? This is a song that I've never sung before. It's called "Rock Me, Baby." It's a classic old blues song that a lot of people did, but I've never done it. But we're just going to kind of wing it and see what happens. All night long, all night long. I want to tell you about something that's kind of interesting. You know, a lot of the now well-known African American entertainers, even people like Aretha Franklin, when Bill Graham booked them into Winterland and the Fillmore, they were basically not that well accepted in the mainstream. And I think it was Aretha or one of those people, and she broke into tears. She said, "I've never felt so much love as she felt from that audience." They probably are all stoned on acid, but whatever whatever it was, I mean, they really felt the sincerity of the crowd reaction, and it changed the whole dynamics of the acceptance of blues. And that's when B.B. King actually became successful amongst white audiences after Bill Graham booked him and a lot of the other performers, which is, I think, was fantastic. The same with Carlos Santana. So, anyway, this is a Bob Dylan song that's appropriate for some of the things that are going on in the world today. I can remember the lyrics. heartwarming because I don't get a chance to play very often around here, and this has been a really wonderful experience. So thank you.
One encore. Oh. I don't know about everybody here, but I feel quite privileged to be here and be reminded in the era of 60s and the big change and the racism, etc. It's very powerful reminders of all that time.
This is a song, when Jerry Garcia passed away, I was on the road with Bobby Weir, and I locked myself in the bathroom of this motel. We were in a small town, and this is kind of interesting. And people came from all over America and did candlelight vigil in the street. And so I co-wrote this song called Every Little Light. I'm not sure if I'll remember all the lyrics, but anyway, it goes something like this. We stand in starlight, bound by our love. It's time to remember that love is enough. This day and night time, the joy and sorrow is black and white. This time we had us borrowed. Every little light that shine upon me, cause every little light, though it shines on me, won't set me free as it does. Every little light. Just ramblers, and we just wanna be free. Now this is something new I sure like to see. Yes, we loved you from a long time ago. This is something you to know, cause every little light that shines upon me, every little light, Lord, that shines on me, oh, set me free, every day, every little light, gonna shine.
We have a response from Matt?
Yeah, thanks very much, very entertaining.
I heard you playing about a year or so ago at O'Gara's in Pratamac Hill. Yeah? Does that bring back any memories?
What's the name? I'm sorry, one more time.
O'Gara's. It's an Irish pub.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wonder whether you were playing in Patter again, or where, or have any. I don't know. Maybe this was a one-off for somebody's birthday or something. I'm not sure, but.
Well, no. I mean, whenever there's an opportunity to play with musicians, I love just spontaneously. There's a lot of places in Pattaya. A lot of little bars. Just the other night, there was some place in Jomtien, and there was some guy from the Philippines that sang like Bob Marley, and he was just fantastic.
You live, I take it you live in Pattaya?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so we might be able to hear you again in different places, yeah?
Yep.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, over the other side of the room. Should sit all on the same side.
I have to say, we're very privileged to have you here today. I was at the Isle of Wight Pop Festival, the first one, and your rendition of the Knocking on Heaven's Door was as beautiful as I remember the original. Thank you.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
One more, Bill?
A little bit of a technical question. When you're trying to set up a new harmonica part, do you start with in the key, or do you try cross harp, or do you just kind of go by feel, or?
That's a really good question, because that can be a nightmare for a harp player such as myself, because a lot of times my harmonicas aren't clearly marked, and if it's not the right key, it just doesn't work. And I have like dozens of harmonicas, and if I pick up the wrong one in the middle of the song, with Bobby, he'll want to slap me upside the head, because it's very frustrating, because they're not clearly marked, and yeah, you got to have the right key.
Am I allowed on stage now, Dr. Dave? Okay, I can say thank you, thank you, thank you. And sincerely, on behalf of everybody here, I mean, many, many people in the audience had their hearts and memories and spirits touched. You're 80 years old, right?
I'm just about to turn 80, yeah.
All righty. So you have to come back when you're 90, right? Is that okay? When you're 90, you have to come back.
Absolutely. Well, I live here. Come back here.
Maybe, yeah, no, I'm sure we'll be just more than delighted to have you back. And thank you, Bobby, for what you did in terms of coordinating and playing, of course, everything. Thank you. And we have a very small token of our deep, heartfelt appreciation of your performance and story and the guitar playing and the blues. Thank you so much.
I can't, thank you. Just one more. I just like to say in parting that, I've played all kinds of venues. I played, Madison Square Gardens. I've even played for a Hell's Angel party, which was really pretty harrowing. I'm surprised we made it out alive. But this has been really a beautiful evening. I'm really touched.
No, don't.
Well,
yeah.
I can really quickly tell something about what happened that night. We played, I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but we got hired by the head of the Hells Angels, this guy, Sonny Barger, who was actually a very nice fellow. But I had no idea what it was going to be like, and it was a big event that they have every 5 years, and they rented a house in the middle of nowhere, and there was like 200 Hells Angels, and these guys are really crazy, frighteningly so. I don't think I've ever been that frightened in my life, and the Doobie Brothers were supposed to take over for us halfway through, and they showed up, and they took one look around, and they said, "It's all right, Matthew, we're not going in there." And I ran into them years later when we played for the inauguration of Clinton, which was kind of a strange event. But nonetheless, and the Doobie Brothers were there, and they came up and they were very hospitable and apologized. But so that was my Hells Angel story. Actually, it was kind of tragic though, because our lead guitar player, I had to tell this actually, in order to keep playing, because they kept us playing nonstop for 12 hours, and we said, look, we're running out of energy. So they came up with these daggers with methamphetamine, and they said, you snort this, and you're not going to say no to a guy that's got a dagger. And these guys are crazy. And so anyway, make a long story short, after the gig, I got stopped by the police, and they said, we're not stopping you to harass you. We were afraid to come out there. We want to know from you what it was like. So I told them. But that night, our lead guitar player, who was a real legend, did too much, and he did another substance to counteract the meth, and he died that night, and it was really tragic. So I'm sorry to have to end on such a tragic note, but that's what happened in my one and only Hells Angel gig. And he was the best friend of Jorma Kalkin, who was the lead guitar player for the Jefferson Airplane. And that's all I've got to say about that. Anyway, thanks again to everybody. You've been great.
Well, nobody saw that morning coming. We have a great turnout, and I'm thinking everybody's really glad they came today. And you're really glad you came today too. So we hope you'll be back again, maybe in about a year or so. So yeah, thank you for a very special morning for so many people.